Ava Morales's pen hovers over the signature line for 2 seconds she doesn't have. The subpoena smells like toner and federal authority. Whitmore Pharmaceuticals, 18 deaths. Concealed clinical trial data showing cardiac events the company knew about and released anyway. 400 pages of evidence sitting on a laminate desk in a public defender's office that reeks of burnt coffee and budget cuts that never end. She signs at 6:18 a.m. Page 12 lists the new CEO, Daniel Whitmore, inherited 3 months ago after a funeral that looked more like a shareholder meeting than a burial. The file doesn't mention Ridgewood High School, 17 years old, library corner, 2 full scholarships and a future they sketched in calculus margins until his father made him choose between Harvard and her. And here's what nobody tells you about public defenders like Ava. They don't get to choose their cases based on who used to break their heart. The file lands on your desk with 18 dead bodies attached to it, and you either prosecute or you prove you can't do your job. So when Daniel Whitmore's pharmaceutical company became her federal case, she had exactly one choice, which means you're about to watch 2 people who once planned their entire future together tear each other apart in a courtroom. If you want to see who survives, and trust me, the answer isn't what you think. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because this gets so much darker. Now let's get back to that deposition room. 72 hours later, Ava walks into conference room 4B on the 8th floor of the federal building. Fluorescent lights, corporate-grade air conditioning set to punitive. Daniel is already seated at the mahogany table, hands folded, wearing a suit that costs more than her car payment. He looks up. 10 years collapse into 4 seconds. His jaw tightens. His hands go completely still on the table, not frozen, controlled. The particular stillness of someone who spent a decade in boardrooms learning to turn panic into marble. Ava sets her briefcase down. The sound cracks through the room like a gavel. Her supervisor takes the observation seat behind tinted glass. Court reporter positions at the stenotype. Recording equipment hums to life. Daniel's mouth opens. The door swings wide before he can speak. Heels on tile, a voice like silk wrapped around surgical steel. "Darling, I'm so sorry I'm late." Sloane Fairchild enters wearing a suit that costs more than Ava's monthly rent. She touches Daniel's wrist as she passes. Once, possessive, makes certain Ava is watching. Extends a hand Ava doesn't take. "Ms. Morales, I've reviewed your discovery requests. Interesting timing, filing a case against your ex-boyfriend the same month he inherits." Sloane's smile is a scalpel. Some might call that a conflict of interest. Ava's supervisor makes a note behind the glass. The pen scratches. Daniel's hands go still in a different way now. Wrong way. Ava opens her file without answering. Slides the first exhibit across the table. Internal email chain. Subject: Cardiac Event Clusters Strategic Response. Date: 9 months before FDA approval. Executives discussing how to handle safety signals without delaying launch. Daniel's name isn't on it. His father's is. Charles Whitmore, CEO, copied on every email, making decisions about acceptable mortality rates like he was approving office furniture. The date stamp: 3 weeks after Daniel accepted his first VP position at 23 years old. Ava's voice is steady. Professional destroys him anyway. "Mr. Whitmore, let's begin with what you knew about the cardiac safety profile of your company's flagship drug, and when you knew it." The deposition begins. 6 hours in, the recording equipment hums at a frequency designed to strip concentration down to wire. The court reporter's fingers hit the stenotype like a metronome counting casualties. Ava's coffee went cold in its styrofoam cup 3 objections ago. Sloan stands. Objection. Calls for speculation about internal corporate communications the witness has no direct knowledge of. The federal magistrate doesn't look up from her notes. Sustained. 47 times. 47 sustained objections in 6 hours. Each one a surgical strike at gaps Ava didn't know existed in her own case, until Sloan named them out loud in a voice that sounds like she's doing everyone a favor. Ava's supervisor makes another note behind the glass. The pen scratches like a countdown. Daniel sits across the table answering questions in technically compliant sentences that say everything legally required and nothing that matters. A decade of hostile investors taught him how to turn language into a weapon that looks like cooperation. Hour 6, Sloan sets down her pen. Your Honor, defense would like to raise a preliminary matter regarding potential prosecutorial bias. The temperature in the room drops 5 degrees. Sloan's voice stays conversational, helpful, even, like she's protecting the integrity of the process from people too blind to see the problem. Ms. Morales has failed to disclose a prior romantic relationship with the defendant's CEO that predates this investigation by approximately 10 years. This constitutes a significant conflict of interest under federal guidelines. Ava has 45 seconds before it goes on the official record. She stands. There is no current relationship. The past has no bearing on this case. Sloan's smile doesn't reach anywhere near her eyes. Then you won't mind if we subpoena your phone records from last Tuesday, 11:47 p.m., 43-minute call with Mr. Whitmore. About what exactly? Daniel's breathing changes across the table. Small shift. Only Ava notices because she spent 2 years learning the specific rhythm of his breath when he was trying not to react to something that was destroying him. The magistrate tables the motion pending documentation. The deposition concludes at 6:47 p.m. Sloan packs her briefcase with the particular efficiency of someone who just won something nobody else saw her take. Leaves with her hand on Daniel's lower back, professional enough to be deniable, intimate enough to land like a closed fist. Ava's supervisor waits until the room empties. My office, tomorrow, 8 a.m. Bring documentation of every communication you've had with Daniel Whitmore since this case was assigned. He doesn't wait for an answer. The door closes. Ava is alone in conference room 4B for the first time in 9 hours. The fluorescent lights buzz. The air conditioning cycles. The recording equipment powers down with a click that sounds like a trap closing. Her phone vibrates in her coat pocket. Text unknown number. Your sister called the office today asking about the Medicaid drug formulary changes. Whitmore's lobbying to remove the generic cardiac meds. Thought you should know. A friend. Ava stares at the screen. She doesn't know anyone at Whitmore Pharmaceuticals. She doesn't know how a friend got her personal cell number. She doesn't know why someone inside the company she's prosecuting would warn her about her sister's medication. She knows this. Maya's insulin is generic. Whitmore manufactures the brand name version. And if the generics disappear from Medicaid formulary, Maya's prescriptions go from affordable to impossible. Ava's hands start shaking before she can stop them. The conference room is empty. The building is empty. The message on her phone is the only sound in a silence that suddenly feels like it's been waiting for her to notice something she should have seen 6 hours ago. She leaves through the side exit. Doesn't look back. The parking garage smells like exhaust and old decisions. Ava sits in her car with the engine off, phone pressed to her ear, listening to it ring. Maya picks up on the second ring. Background noise floods through, pharmacy overhead announcements, the mechanical beep of a card reader, someone behind the counter saying words like declined and prior authorization. Maya's voice has the particular brightness of controlled panic. Hey, bad timing. Where are you? CVS on Laurel, just picking up my prescription. Well, trying to. The brightness cracks. They're saying my insulin isn't covered anymore. Ava's hand tightens on the steering wheel. What do you mean, not covered? Generic manufacturer, the one I've been using for 2 years. Insurance says it's no longer on formulary. They can switch me to brand name, but Maya's voice drops. The pharmacy beep sounds again. Declined. Brand costs $380. I have $47. The math lands like a fist. Ava has been quietly covering Maya's medical costs for 3 years. Maya doesn't know this. Maya thinks she's managing on graduate student loans and Medicaid, and the particular kind of hope that comes from being 24 and believing the system will work if you just follow the rules correctly. I'll handle it. You can't keep. I'll transfer money tonight. Get the brand. We'll figure out the formulary issue. Silence. Then, there's a lawsuit. The pharmacist mentioned it. Whitmore Pharmaceuticals is suing the generic manufacturer for patent infringement. If they win, the generic disappears completely. Ava closes her eyes. Whitmore. The company she's prosecuting. The company Daniel inherited. The lawsuit Maya doesn't know is connected to the case that's destroying Ava's career in slow motion. Don't worry about the lawsuit. Easy for you to say. You're not the one rationing insulin because. Maya, Ava's voice is sharper than she means it to be. I said I'll handle it. The line goes quiet except for Maya's breathing and the pharmacy announcements, and the specific sound of a card declining for the 3rd time. Okay, Maya's voice is small. Thanks, M. She hangs up before Ava can say anything that sounds like an apology. Ava sits in the parking garage. Car alarm echoing on a lower level. Her hands are shaking. Her mouth tastes like copper. Her vision blurs at the edges in a way that has nothing to do with the fluorescent lights and everything to do with the text message still glowing on her phone screen. Whitmore's lobbying to remove the generic cardiac meds. Not lobbying to compete, lobbying to eliminate. She sends Maya $400 via mobile transfer, drives home through traffic that feels like it's moving underwater. Doesn't eat, stands in her apartment staring at the anonymous text until the words stop making sense. Opens her laptop, pulls up case files, searches generic manufacturer litigation. Finds an internal Whitmore memo dated 6 weeks ago, before the federal case was assigned to her, before she knew Daniel's name would be on page 12 of a file that would force them to destroy each other. Subject line, competitive strategy, generic elimination. Attached spreadsheet, target drugs, market analysis. Projected revenue increase if generics disappear from low-income formularies. Maya's insulin is 3rd on the list. The memo is signed, Sloan Fairchild, VP Corporate Strategy. Ava's phone rings. Daniel's number. She stares at it. 1 ring, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Answers on the 9th. His voice. I saw the memo. I didn't authorize it. Her hand tightens on the phone hard enough to hurt. You're the CEO. Silence, long enough that Ava can hear him breathing. Same rhythm she learned 17 years ago in a library corner, when the future was something they were building together, instead of something they were using to destroy each other. I need to see you. We have court. Not at a deposition, just. His voice cracks in a place she didn't know still existed. I need to see you. Ava looks at the memo on her screen. Maya's insulin, 3rd on the list. Sloane's signature at the bottom. Where? The old library, Ridgewood High, midnight. He hangs up. Ava stands in her apartment holding a phone that's gone silent and staring at evidence that proves the woman running Daniel's legal strategy is actively trying to kill low-income patients for market share. She has court in the morning. Her supervisor is investigating her. Sloane knows about the phone calls. And Daniel just asked her to meet him at the exact location where they fell in love 17 years ago. She grabs her keys. She drives. The high school library smells like old paper and emergency lighting. Ava pushes through the side entrance at 11:58 p.m. Unlocked. Daniel has a key. His father donated the new wing 10 years ago with a bronze plaque and conditions that probably included permanent access for the family that bought their way into Ridgewood's history. He's waiting in their corner, 3rd floor, east windows, the spot where they used to spread calculus homework and scholarship applications and a future that felt inevitable until it wasn't. Suit jacket gone, tie missing, sleeves rolled to his elbows, looking less like a CEO and more like the boy who used to fall asleep on her shoulder during AP Physics. Ava stops 3 feet away, close enough to see he hasn't slept, far enough that touching would require a decision. No preamble, no apologies for the hour. Daniel speaks first. My father gave me an ultimatum when I was 17. Harvard and the company, or you and a life where your family gets buried in legal fees and IRS audits and investigations that don't stop until there's nothing left to take. The library shelves press closer. Ava's breathing goes shallow. Daniel keeps going. Facts only. No self-pity. Like he's been rehearsing this confession for a decade and finally found someone who needs to hear it more than he needs to keep it buried. Your father was already sick, already vulnerable. Mine had the resources to destroy him while he was dying and make it look like bureaucratic coincidence. So I chose Harvard. I took the scholarship. I let you think I picked money over you. His jaw tightens. I never told you why. Ava's hands find the edge of a bookshelf behind her. 10 years, Daniel. You've had 10 years to tell me. I know. So why now? Daniel pulls out his phone, turns the screen toward her. Text thread with Sloane from 3 hours ago. Sloane, the sister, is a vulnerability. If Ava won't recuse herself, we make the case about her fitness to serve. Diabetic dependent, financial strain, emotional compromise. I can have it filed by Friday. Daniel, no. Sloane, darling, you don't get to decide this. The board does, and I speak for the board. Ava stares at the screen, at Maya's life reduced to a litigation strategy, at Sloane calling Daniel darling while planning to weaponize a 24-year-old's medical condition. She's going after Maya. I know. You're going to let her. Daniel's face does something she hasn't seen since they were 17, and he told her Harvard was a better opportunity than staying in Ridgewood with her. Vulnerability. I'm going to testify against my own company. I'll give you everything my father buried, every clinical trial he suppressed, every FDA reviewer he paid off, every executive who knew people would die and released the drugs anyway. He pauses. But you have to protect Maya first. Ava's voice comes out wrong, broken edges. Why would you do that? Because I never stopped trying to protect you. I just got really bad at it. Headlights sweep across the library windows. Car pulling into the parking lot. Fast. Wrong time of night for campus security. Daniel's phone buzzes in his hand. New text, Sloan. I know where you are. We need to talk. Now. Daniel looks at Ava. She looks at the headlights. She's been tracking you. I know. How long? Does it matter? The car doors slam. Footsteps on pavement. Heels. Sloane's particular rhythm, the sound of someone who's never had to hurry because the world waits for her to arrive. Ava moves toward the emergency exit. Daniel catches her wrist. Wait. She can't see us together. I don't care what she sees. His hand doesn't let go. I'm done protecting the company. I'm done pretending I don't. The main library doors open downstairs. Sloane's voice echoes up the stairwell. Daniel, I saw your car. I know you're here. His hand drops. Ava runs. Stop, I need you to sit with something for a second. Because Daniel Whitmore just told Ava he's willing to destroy his own company. The empire his father threatened her family to force him to accept in order to protect her sister from the woman who's supposed to be on his side. So here's my question. Have you ever realized the person you've been fighting might have been protecting you the whole time? Comment, protecting, if you know what that feels like. Because Ava is about to find out that the case she's building might be exactly what Daniel's been waiting for someone brave enough to bring. And that changes everything. Marcus Reeves knocks at 9 a.m. with a federal badge and a file twice the size of Ava's. She opens the door to her office, public defender cramped, files stacked on every surface. A photo of her and Maya on the desk from 2 years ago when they both still smiled like the future was something they controlled. Marcus stands the way federal investigators stand, weight balanced, hands visible, authority worn like a second skin. Ms. Morales, Senior Investigator Marcus Reeves, FDA Office of Criminal Investigations. He shows credentials. I'm leading the parallel investigation into Whitmore Pharmaceuticals. I need your cooperation. Ava gestures him in. He takes the chair across from her desk, sets the file down with a sound that says this is bigger than what you know. Case coordination, witness sharing, evidence exchange. His tone is professional but warm, like he's offering partnership instead of demanding compliance. My team has intercepted communications your discovery process hasn't touched yet. Whistleblower testimony. Internal documents showing the lobbying strategy. His eyes catch the photo on her desk, linger half a second too long. Family. Sister. He nods, doesn't push. The shift in his expression is subtle but clear, protective, not judgmental. Like he's already done the math on why someone prosecuting pharmaceutical corruption might have personal stakes in generic drug access. The lobbying strategy. Marcus leans forward. It's not about competing with generics, it's about eliminating them. Whitmore targets drugs that keep low-income patients alive, files patent infringement suits they know will take years to resolve. By the time the cases settle, the generic manufacturers are bankrupt and Whitmore owns exclusive market rights. Ava's hands flatten on the desk. How many drugs? 47 cardiac meds, insulin, antiretrovirals, blood pressure stabilizers. He pauses. Your sister's insulin is on the list. The room tilts slightly. Marcus pulls a flash drive from his jacket, sets it on the desk between them. Everything we have. I'm trusting you with this because your case is clean and your reputation is bulletproof. He meets her eyes. Don't let Daniel Whitmore compromise either one. He leaves. Ava sits alone in her office staring at a flash drive that contains evidence she's not supposed to have access to yet, and a warning she doesn't know how to follow. She plugs it in. Audio files, labeled by date, she opens the most recent. Board meeting, 2 weeks ago. Sloane's voice coming through crystal clear. The Morales case is an opportunity. If we can prove prosecutorial bias, we collapse the federal investigation and position Daniel as a victim of government overreach. The sister's medical dependency is the key. We leak it to the press, frame Ava as emotionally compromised, and the case dies. Board member, and Daniel approves this strategy. Sloane, Daniel doesn't need to approve it. I have proxy authority. Ava's phone rings before the recording finishes. Daniel. She answers. Did Marcus Reeves come to see you? Her hand tightens on the phone. How do you know that? Because Sloane just called an emergency board meeting. His voice has an edge she hasn't heard before. Sharp, urgent, wrong. She knows about the FDA coordination. She's moving the timeline up. What timeline? Daniel's voice drops to something that sounds like a man watching a building collapse and knowing he's standing inside it. The one where she buries both of us before the truth gets out. The line goes dead. Ava sits in her office with Marcus Reeves's flash drive still glowing on her screen, and Sloane's voice still echoing through the speakers and Daniel's warning sitting in her chest like a countdown she can't see but can definitely feel. Her email refreshes. New message, her supervisor. Subject, mandatory meeting, 2 p.m. today, bring legal counsel. The case is collapsing. And Sloane is the one holding the detonator. Ava's supervisor's office at 2 p.m. smells like disappointment and closed doors. He's got her phone records spread across his desk like evidence at a crime scene. Her case files stacked beside them. A legal pad with notes she can't read from her chair. Who is a friend? The question lands like an accusation with a question mark attached. Ava keeps her face neutral. I don't know what you mean. He taps the phone records. Anonymous texts, internal Whitmore memos appearing in your files with no discoverable source. Evidence you shouldn't have access to showing up exactly when you need it. He leans back. Someone inside Whitmore Pharmaceuticals is feeding you information illegally. If that's true, every piece of evidence is tainted. If you can't name the source, this case collapses. The silence has weight. Her supervisor's pen is poised over the legal pad, waiting. Ava makes a decision that violates 6 different ethical guidelines and possibly ends her career, but definitely saves the case from dying on a technicality. I am the source. His face changes, processes, recalculates. Explain. I've been running a secure, anonymous tip line. Whitmore employees who are afraid to come forward send me information through encrypted channels. I aggregate the leaks, cross-reference with official discovery. Only use what can be independently verified through legal means. She meets his eyes. I'm not manufacturing evidence. I'm protecting sources who would lose their jobs and possibly their lives if they testified publicly. Her supervisor writes 3 words on the legal pad. She can't see them. That's intentional. Does Daniel Whitmore know? Ava hesitates. That's the tell. Her supervisor sets down his pen. You're suspended, pending ethics review. You have 48 hours to provide documentation proving this tip line exists, that it's legitimate, and that you haven't been in direct communication with sources. He stands. If you can't, you're removed from the case and referred for disciplinary action. The case collapses. Daniel Whitmore walks. 18 families don't get justice. His voice is flat, final. That's what happens when prosecutors decide the rules don't apply to them. Ava leaves the federal building at 4:17 p.m. Her badge is temporarily deactivated. Her access revoked. Her career balanced on 48 hours and documentation that doesn't exist because she was lying to protect something she can't name without destroying it. She gets in her car. Her phone lights up. Text a friend. I saw the suspension. I'm sorry, but you need to know I'm not multiple employees. It's just me. And I'm ready to come forward. Meet me tonight. I'll tell you everything. But Ava, when you find out who I am, you're going to wish I had stayed anonymous. DW. DW. Daniel Whitmore. Ava stares at her phone in a parking garage that suddenly feels like the bottom of something she's been falling toward since the moment she signed a subpoena with his company's name on it. Daniel has been the whistleblower. Daniel has been feeding her evidence against his own company for 2 months. Daniel has been building the case that would destroy him from the inside, while Sloan was building the defense that would bury them both. Her phone rings. Unknown number. She answers because at this point, what's one more decision that makes no sense? A woman's voice, older, careful, Ridgewood accent underneath professional polish. Ms. Morales, my name is Helen Driscoll. I was Charles Whitmore's estate attorney. Charles Whitmore, Daniel's father, dead 3 months. The man who built the company on suppressed clinical trials and acceptable mortality rates. Ava's hand tightens on the phone. He left something for you, a video deposition, recorded 2 weeks before he died. Helen pauses. He said if Daniel ever tried to dismantle the company, you were the only person who could understand why it had to burn. Ava's vision blurs at the edges. Why would he leave me anything? Helen's voice goes quiet in a way that means the answer is going to hurt. Because he's the one who paid Daniel to leave you, $50,000, cash transfer, the week before Harvard started. Another pause. And he wanted you to know that destroying the company was always the plan. Daniel just doesn't know he's executing his father's final revenge. The line stays open. Ava can hear Helen breathing. Can hear her own heart doing something arrhythmic. Can hear the parking garage echoing with the sound of everything she thought she knew cracking down the middle. Where's the video? Ridgewood, my office. I can meet you tonight. Ava looks at the text from DW, still glowing on her screen. At the federal building in her rearview mirror, where her career just ended. At the 48 hours she doesn't have. I'll be there by midnight. She hangs up. She drives. Ava wakes up to her name, trending on national legal news. 7 a.m. Phone screen glowing with alerts. Motion filed overnight. Sloan Fairchild, on behalf of Whitmore Pharmaceuticals, motioned to dismiss with prejudice and sanctions for prosecutorial misconduct. 4 allegations listed like bullets. 1. Federal prosecutor initiated case against former romantic partner as retaliation for decade-old breakup. 2. Concealed relationship during case assignment, violating conflict of interest disclosure requirements. 3. Coordinated with illegal anonymous source later, revealed to be defendant CEO himself. 4. Sisters' medical dependency on generic drugs created financial motive to target Whitmore's patent litigation strategy. Every word technically true. Every word missing the context that would prove Ava was exposing crimes, not manufacturing them. Sloan knows this. The press doesn't. Attached to the motion, Maya's medical records, insulin prescription history, Medicaid coverage details, pharmacy rejection documentation, all obtained through subpoena Ava didn't know existed until it was filed in a public document her sister will see on the news before Ava can warn her. By noon, Ava's name is trending for all the wrong reasons. By 2 p.m., her supervisor has fielded calls from the U.S. Attorney, 3 congressional offices, and a reporter from the Times asking if the Justice Department routinely allows prosecutors to target ex-boyfriends using taxpayer resources. Okay, I need to pause here, because Sloan Fairchild just did something most people wouldn't have the nerve to do. She took every true fact about Ava's case and turned it into a weapon that makes Ava look like she's been running a personal vendetta for 10 years. And the worst part, the public is believing it. So here's what I need to know. Do you think Ava should fight this and risk losing everything, or walk away and let Whitmore Pharmaceuticals bury the 18 deaths forever? Comment fight or walk right now, because what Ava chooses in the next 10 minutes is going to determine whether she keeps her oath to the dead or keeps any chance of a future with Daniel. And I don't think she gets to have both. Ava sits on her couch, watching the press conference live stream. Sloan stands at a podium in a navy suit that photographs well, hair perfect, voice measured, framing Daniel as a victim of government overreach and Ava as a prosecutor who weaponized her office for personal revenge. Mr. Whitmore has been cooperative throughout this process. He provided voluntary testimony. He disclosed historical corporate practices he inherited but didn't create. And in return, Ms. Morales has pursued an investigation that appears designed to punish him for a romantic relationship that ended when they were teenagers. The reporters eat it up. Ava's phone rings. Her supervisor, professional tone, the kind that means termination is 3 sentences away. You have 24 hours to provide documentation supporting your ethics review defense. After that, the recommendation goes to the U.S. Attorney for final determination. Pause. I'm sorry, Ava, but this case is over. He hangs up. The live stream continues. Sloan fielding questions about prosecutorial abuse and whether this represents a broader pattern in the Justice Department. Ava's phone rings again. Unknown number. She answers because at this point, what's left to protect? A woman's voice, older, Ridgewood underneath the polish. Ms. Morales, my name is Helen Driscoll. I was Charles Whitmore's estate attorney. Charles, Daniel's father, dead 3 months. Ava's hand tightens on the phone. He left something for you, a video deposition, recorded 2 weeks before he died. He said if Daniel ever tried to dismantle the company, you were the only person who could understand why it had to burn. Ava's apartment suddenly feels smaller. Why would he leave me anything? Helen's voice drops, careful, like she's been waiting to deliver this message for 3 months and knows exactly how much damage it's going to do. Because he's the one who paid Daniel to leave you, and he wanted you to know that destroying the company was always the plan. Daniel just doesn't know he's executing his father's final revenge. The live stream plays on mute. Sloan answering questions. Charles Whitmore engineering destruction from beyond death. Daniel caught between a father who weaponized him and a woman doing the same. Ava stands up. Where's the video? My office, Ridgewood. I can meet you tonight. I'll be there by midnight. She hangs up. Packs a bag. Doesn't tell anyone where she's going. Drives. Helen Driscoll's law office smells like estate settlements and inherited guilt. Ridgewood, 11:34 p.m. Small practice. Mahogany furniture older than Ava. Diplomas on walls from schools that don't exist anymore. Helen hands her a tablet without preamble. Video file. Label, final deposition of Charles Whitmore for Ava Morales only. Ava presses play. Charles fills the screen, 2 weeks before death, chemotherapy thin, eyes sharp despite the body failing around them. He looks directly at the camera like he's been waiting to say this to someone specific and finally found his audience. Ms. Morales, if you're watching this, my son is trying to be a better man than I raised him to be, and I can't allow that. His voice has gravel and pleasure in it. The video runs 38 minutes. Charles confesses in the particular detail of someone who wants credit for what he built, even if that credit comes posthumously, and sounds like a serial killer's manifesto. 20 years of suppressed safety data. Clinical trials showing cardiac events, liver failure, neurological damage. FDA reviewers paid off with consulting contracts and speaking fees that looked legitimate on paper. Internal memos calculating acceptable mortality rates versus profit margins. The cardiac drug that killed 18 people, Charles knew it would, released it anyway. The lawsuits were cheaper than the market share was valuable. When Daniel started asking questions at 23, fresh out of business school, still believing corporations could do good if led by good people, Charles gave him the ultimatum. VP position and silence, or Ava's family gets destroyed. Charles paid Daniel $50,000 to leave Ridgewood. Not enough to buy dignity, just enough to make it look like opportunity instead of extortion. The video ends with coordinates and a physical key taped to the tablet case. Charles's voice, final words, there's a storage unit. Everything Daniel will need to dismantle the company is there, but Ms. Morales, he'll destroy himself doing it, unless you do it first. That's why I'm giving this to you. Because watching you two destroy each other is the last gift I can give myself. The screen goes black. Ava sits in Helen's office, staring at a dead man's revenge plot. Helen says quietly, he recorded that the day before his final chemo appointment, knew it wouldn't work, spent his last 2 weeks making sure Daniel couldn't escape what he'd built. Ava leaves at 1:47 a.m. 6 missed calls, 4 from Marcus, 2 from Daniel, 0 from her supervisor, which means the termination decision has already been made and the 24-hour courtesy was a formality. She drives to the coordinates. Industrial complex, 40 minutes outside Ridgewood, storage units stretching in rows under sodium lights. Uses the key. Unit opens. Filing cabinets floor to ceiling. 20 years of evidence, every clinical trial Charles buried, every FDA communication he falsified, every internal memo showing executives calculated deaths like overhead costs. A handwritten note on Charles's personal stationery sits on top, dated the day before he died. For Ava, use this and you save 18 families. You also destroy Daniel. He'll never forgive you for finishing what his father started. But you already know that's the cost of justice, don't you? You've been paying it since the day your father died waiting for insulin my company made unaffordable. Consider us even. CW. Ava's hands shake reading it. Her father, dead at 53, diabetic, rationing insulin because Whitmore's patent extensions made the generic disappear from formulary the year his insurance lapsed. Charles knew. Charles remembered. Charles spent his final conscious hours making sure Ava would have to choose between saving strangers and destroying the man she never stopped loving. Her phone rings. Daniel. She answers. Where are you? She looks at 20 years of her father's murderer's meticulous record-keeping. Your father's storage unit. Silence, then his voice cracks in a way she's never heard. Don't open anything, I'm coming to you. Why? Because Sloan just called me. She knows about the video, and she's not trying to bury the evidence anymore. Ava's vision blurs. What is she trying to bury? You. The line goes dead. Ava stands alone in a storage unit full of evidence that would save 18 families and destroy the only person who's been trying to save her. Headlights appear in the distance. Vast. Not Daniel's car. She knows before they get close. Sloan found the coordinates. And she's not coming to negotiate. The headlights aren't Sloan. They're Daniel. He pulls in at 2:34 a.m. and walks into the storage unit like he's walking into his own execution. Sees the filing cabinets, the 20 years of his father's meticulous documentation of corporate murder, the evidence that would end Whitmore Pharmaceuticals and everyone who ever signed a document with the company letterhead. They stand in silence. 11 minutes. Long enough for dust motes to settle in the flashlight beam. Long enough for distant highway traffic to fade into white noise. Long enough for their breathing to synchronize the way it used to when they were 17, and the future was something they were building instead of something that was burying them alive. Daniel speaks first. If you use this, I go to prison. Ava doesn't look at him. Keeps her eyes on a file labeled Clinical Trial 2019A Cardiac Safety Analysis. Your father built the case. You just inherited it. The law doesn't care. His voice is flat, legal precision. I'm CEO. I signed FDA disclosures last quarter. I certified data I didn't know was falsified. That's criminal liability regardless of intent. Ava opens the file. Clinical trial from 2019. Cardiac events in 60% of participants. Data suppressed. Drug released anyway. 18 people in her federal case died from the exact formulation tested in this trial. Their names are in the file. She reads them aloud. Jennifer Matsuda, 47, mother of 3. Cardiac arrest 6 weeks after starting medication. Daniel closes his eyes. Robert Chen, 61, veteran, died in his sleep. Autopsy showed arrhythmia consistent with known side effects your company buried. Lava. Diane Foster, 34, teacher. left behind a husband and twin daughters who were 8 years old. Stop. If I don't use this, they died for nothing. Daniel doesn't argue. He pulls out his phone instead, shows her a text from Sloan, sent 4 minutes ago. I know you're with her. I know about the storage unit. If you bring that evidence to court, I'll make sure Ava Morales loses her Medicaid coverage tomorrow. 18 dead strangers versus 1 living sister. Choose. Ava stares at the screen. At Maya's life reduced to a bargaining chip. At Sloan's particular brand of cruelty that sounds like strategy. At Daniel's face doing something that looks like a man who's been drowning for 10 years and just now realized he's been standing in shallow water the whole time. There's a third option, Ava says. What? She pulls out her phone, calls Marcus Reeves. 2:51 a.m. He answers on the second ring like he's been waiting. I have everything. 20 years of suppressed clinical trials, FDA falsifications, everything you need for criminal charges. She looks at Daniel. But it's not coming from me. Who's it coming from? Daniel closes his eyes. Then he takes the phone from Ava's hand. It's coming from me. I'm the whistleblower. I'm testifying against my own company. His voice doesn't shake. And I need witness protection for 2 people before I do. Who? Ava's sister Maya and Ava. He hangs up, hands the phone back, looks at Ava with something that might be relief or might be grief or might be both things happening simultaneously in a body that's been holding too many contradictions for too long. I'm sorry it took me this long to. Car headlights cut through the storage unit entrance. Multiple vehicles, coming fast. Sloan's people or Sloan herself, and at this point the distinction doesn't matter because the choice has already been made and the evidence is already tagged for federal seizure, and Daniel just signed his own arrest warrant to keep Maya alive. Ava grabs his wrist. When Marcus gets here, I know. You'll go to prison. I know. For crimes you didn't commit. Daniel's hand covers hers. For crimes I inherited. For data I certified. For a company I should have burned down the day my father died instead of trying to fix it from the inside. He squeezes once. This is the fix, Ava. It's just uglier than I thought it would be. The vehicles pull up. Doors slam. Not Sloan's voice. Marcus Reeves, FBI tactical team. Federal agents securing a crime scene that's been waiting 20 years to be found. Stop, because I need you to understand what just happened. Daniel Whitmore just chose to destroy everything his father built and go to prison himself in order to protect Ava and her sister from the woman he's been letting run his company. So here's my question. If you were Ava, would you trust Daniel to sacrifice himself? Or would you use the evidence yourself and keep control of the outcome? Comment, trust Daniel, or use it herself right now. Because the person Ava trusts in the next chapter is the person who's going to determine whether either of them survives what Sloan's about to do. And I genuinely don't know which choice keeps them alive. Marcus Reeves secures the storage unit at 3:18 a.m. with tactical precision and federal authority that looks like justice arriving late, but arriving anyway. Sloan's vehicles stop at the perimeter. She sees the FBI vests, knows she's lost, turns around without getting out of the car. By 6 a.m., Ava and Maya are in protective custody at a location Marcus won't name over the phone. By 9 a.m., Daniel is at FBI headquarters giving a voluntary deposition that will dismantle everything his father built and take Daniel down with it. Ava watches through one-way glass. Daniel provides everything. Charles's confession video, 20 years of files, his own testimony about what he knew as VP, what he inherited as CEO, what he certified as legally responsible even though he didn't know the data was falsified. The case against Whitmore becomes criminal. Federal charges, corporate dissolution proceedings initiated by noon. Marcus finds Ava in the observation room. He's pleading guilty to negligent homicide, minimum 5 years. Ava's hands go still on the table. He didn't know the data was false. Doesn't matter, he certified it, that's criminal liability. Marcus pauses. He's doing this to make sure the evidence is admissible. If he doesn't plead, Sloane's attorneys claim everything was obtained through coercion and the whole case collapses on appeal. Through the glass, Daniel signs documents that will send him to federal prison for crimes his father committed. By 2 p.m., Sloane Fairchild is arrested at Whitmore headquarters. Obstruction of justice, witness tampering, conspiracy. Let out in handcuffs while cameras roll and her perfect hair stays perfect, and her face does something that looks like a woman realizing she underestimated exactly the wrong person. By 4 p.m., the Whitmore board votes to dissolve the company and establish a victim compensation fund. 18 families' names read aloud in a federal courtroom. Justice delivered. Daniel transferred to federal holding. And this is it. This is the moment. Because Daniel Whitmore just pleaded guilty to crimes his father committed to ensure the evidence against Whitmore Pharmaceuticals would stand in court. He's going to prison for 5 years, so 18 families get justice, and Sloane Fairchild can't destroy the case on appeal. But here's the question I can't stop thinking about. If someone loved you enough to go to prison so you could keep your oath and your sister could keep her life, would you wait 5 years for them? Comment wait or move on right now. Because what Ava answers when Daniel asks is going to tell you everything about whether love is worth the cost of justice. Here's what she says. Ava stands outside FBI headquarters at sunset. Her suspension lifted. Ethics complaint dead with Sloane's arrest. Her supervisor called with a promotion offer, Deputy Director of Public Corruption. She declined. Daniel has 60 seconds before transport. They stand in a hallway that smells like government buildings and consequences. Why did you do it? Ava asks. Because you were right. 18 people deserved someone who'd burn it all down to get them justice. Daniel's voice is steady. I just wish it didn't take me 10 years to be that person. Ava steps closer. I have something to tell you. He waits. I sent the first anonymous tip, 6 months before the case was assigned to me. Burner phone, library computer in Ridgewood. She meets his eyes. I was trying to save you from your father's crimes before they became yours. Daniel's face does something between grief and wonder. You were protecting me. I never stopped. The transport officer opens the door. Daniel says, 5 years will you wait? Ava looks at him, 10 years already lost, 5 more to pay for sins that weren't his. Ask me again in 5 years. He's taken away. Marcus finds her in the parking lot, hands her an envelope. Inside, a deed, her father's house in Ridgewood. Daniel bought it 3 years ago before foreclosure, kept it in trust, transferred it to her name the day he became CEO. A note in his handwriting, so you always have a place to come home to, even if I'm not there. D. Her phone rings. Maya. I saw the news. You saved all those people. We did. Are you okay? Ava looks at the deed to a house she thought she'd lost forever. At the federal building where Daniel just traded his freedom for 18 families' justice. At the sunset over Ridgewood in the distance. Ask me again in 5 years. She hangs up. Gets in her car. Drives toward Ridgewood. Toward a house that's been waiting. Toward a future that's finally hers to build. The city fades in the rearview mirror. 5 years. The story isn't over. It's just beginning.